Hi friends, today we are going to discuss about the programming languages. So programming languages are divided into two types. One is procedural oriented programming language. Another one is object oriented programming language. In procedural oriented programming languages, C, COBOL, Pascal is the example for the procedural oriented programming language. In object oriented programming languages, Java, C Sharp, Python is etc. Example of the object oriented programming language. In procedural programming languages, we will develop the functions and procedures, and if we want to add more functionality, then we need to develop more functions. So if we want to develop any programming, any procedural programming languages, we need to add functions and procedures. So it's totally depends upon the functions and procedures only. So when we want to add more programming languages, we need to add procedures and functions. And if we have the more functions, it's very difficult to manage and maintaining, and the data exposed globally, and there is no security in the uh, procedural programming languages. And one more thing, object-oriented programming languages. So object-oriented programming languages is nowadays people are using. Why? Because in procedural programming languages, there is no security, and also functions are very difficult. Then if we compare to the object-oriented programming languages, the functions are very difficult. Maintaining and managing is very difficult, and also security. There is no security in the procedural programming languages. And one more thing, one more, if you see in object-oriented programming languages, if we want to develop a project using OOPS language, we have to use classes and objects. Based upon the class and object, we can develop the OOPS languages. Okay. If you compare to the procedural programming languages, the security is high when compared to the procedural programming languages. In object-oriented programming languages, code, this is the main the advantages in the object-oriented programming language. That is, code reusability is very high, and security is also very high then compared to the procedural programming languages. Okay, one is the security high, and next one is code reusability high. And next one, what are the principles are available in the OOPS? One is encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance. In 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 one is encapsulation, another one is abstraction, third one is polymorphism, fourth one is inheritance. Encapsulation used to combine our variables and method as single entity. Encapsulation is used to combine our variables and methods as a single entity. We can achieve encapsulation by using classes. So encapsulation provides data hiding. Encapsulation provides data hiding. So encapsulation used to combine our variables and method as a single entity. So we can achieve the encapsulation by using classes. Okay. Next one is abstraction. Abstraction means hiding the unnecessary data, providing only required data. So unnecessary data means, if you write as a developer, if you write any programming or any logic, so we no need to the how internally is working, like what are the coding are there. So we don't need to know all the things how internally is working. So we need to know how to initialize the variables, how to write the program. So this logic programmer need. So we don't need to know the how the internal is working. We don't need to know. And if you see, it will give only required data. Okay, they will give only required data. And how to achieve the abstraction. So we can achieve the abstraction using interfaces and abstraction classes. So we know the class. So generally we will create the class. We know how to create the classes and how to use, but we don't know the interfaces and abstractions class. So we will learn, and further what is the interface, what is the abstraction class, we can learn in coming up classes. And next thing is polymorphism. So polymorphism means, poly means many, prism means behavior. So poly means many, prism means behavior. So if you see here definition here, polymorphism is a concept. Polymorphism is a concept in which particular operation will exhibit different behavior in different situations. So polymorphism is a concept in which particular operation will exhibit different behaviors in different situations. So if you see the any example, if you take example, so as a person, if you take person example, so person, if you take any person, if the person is go to the school, he will act as a student only. The same person if the person goes to the if the person goes to the home, it can act as a family members. It can act as a family members, and also same person is go going to the job, going to the job. He can act as a employee. So if you see here, one person doing many operations, many many operations. So based upon the situation, is acting different behaviors in different situation. Same thing if you take example here, into a equal 20 into b equal 30. So if I do here a plus b plus means addition. So if I do a plus b, so what will happen? It will give addition. It will give 20 plus 30, it will give 50, right? Same thing if I give here string, if I give here string a equal to suppose I'm giving Raj. So here string I'm giving here Kumar. Kumar. So if I do place operation, it will do the concatenation. So if you give the integer, it will doing addition. If we are using string, it will give concatenation. So place operation is doing multiple operations based upon the situation. We can call it as a polymorphism. Polymorphism means particular operation will exhibit different behaviors in different situations. This is about the polymorphism. And one more thing is inheritance. Inheritance means extending the properties, extending properties from the one class to another class is called inheritance. Is called inheritance. We can extract the properties from one class to another class. We can call it as inheritance. So, for suppose if you take any example, so if the parent has the some properties, so the property will go to the his son. So that property will go to the his son. So we can call it as the inheritance. So whatever the parent has the properties, it will go to the son. So we can call it as the inheritance. So this is about the inheritance. The next one is classes, objects, methods, and variables. So variables we already discussed. So types of variables. What is the static variable? What is the instance variable? So what is the static variable? What is instance variable? So these types of variable we already discussed it, and we have to see classes, objects, methods. So classes is nothing but class is a plan or template or model. Class is a plan or template or model. Okay. So class is a blueprint of object. Blueprint means planning. For suppose if you take any example, like if you take building example, if you construct the building before going to construct the building, so we have to plan, right? So where we have to where we have to construct the kitchen, hall, bedroom. So these the uh, engineering will plan that construction building before going to the construction. That plan we can call it as a blueprint. That plan we can call it as a blueprint. Same like in before going to the before going to the create the object, we need to plan, right? That can do class only. Class is a blueprint of object. Class is used to declare variables and method. Once class is created, then we can create any number of objects. Once class is created, then we can create the number of objects. Without creating object, we can't create the object. Without creating class, cannot create the objects. Okay, and class will not exist physically. Class will not exist physically. So this is the syntax of the class. Class names, variables and methods. Variables and methods. Next one is object. Next one is object. Object means any real world entity is called object. Any real world entity, we can call it as an object. Objects exist physically. Without having the class, we can't create the object. So we already discussed before. Without having the class, we can't create the object. Once we create the object, JVM will allocate memory for the object. So once we create the object, JVM will allocate memory for object. New keyword used to create the objects. So for suppose if you take example of so how to create the object, we need to know the syntax. So for suppose I have taken class name as user. User is my class name. So we have to give class name and reference name. Any reference name you can give. So SS or anything, we can mention it. And after that, we have to give equal. Next, new keyword we have to mention. And after that, we have to give class name. So this is the syntax of creating the objects. Okay. If the any object is not using, so garbage collector will remove the objects. So for suppose any unnecessary objects are there. So garbage collector, what will it do? It remove that unnecessary objects. So object will be created in the heap memory. So this is about the objects. Okay. Next one is methods. Next one is methods. So methods are used to perform some operations. So this is the syntax of the method. So we have to give return type and method name parameters. So we have to mention parameters. So return type any by like a method return type is mandatory. So if you don't use the return type, we can't create the method. Method return type is mandatory. So if you don't want to return anything, then we should use void. So we don't use the like the return. So we should use void only. So method name is mandatory. So without a name, we can't create the method. Method parameters are optional. So it depends upon the parameter like our logic or our methods. We can give. So parameters are optional. Next one is when method is having return type, then it has to return that value. So if it is a return type is there, we have to mention return that value. We have to give return value. Return type should be the last line of the method. So if you create the return type, that value is the last line. So whatever the return type is there, that value is the last line of the method. So this is about the methods. And the methods are also two types. So methods are two types. One is the instance method and another one is static method. One is instance method, another one is static method. So instance method is it object level method. Instance method is object level method. Static method is a class level method. Means so when we want to call the instance method, so we need to use object. We need to create the object. So with help of the object only, we can call the instance method. What is the static method? So with help of the class only, we can call the static method. Now let's see how to use the how to call the instance method. What are the types of methods? So we can see in the Eclipse how to use it. Okay. Now let's see. So here, okay, I will create from starting. So now I create the class. Now I have created the class. Okay. So how to create the object? Do you know how to create the object? We already discussed. So what is the syntax of the object? Class name, reference name equal to new class name. So what is the class name? Class name is oops example. So you have to give here oops example and reference name. Reference name you can give anything. A or anything you can give. Equal to new. Okay. Then you have to mention, yeah, yeah. This is the we can create the object. So and how to create the method. So method we can create. So if you want to return any method, you have to give integer type, integer or string or anything. If you don't want to return anything, you have to use void keyword. Okay, void method name is add anything. If you want to give anything. So if you want to give parameters, that is the optional, right? So we already discussed, right? If you want to mention any method with parameters or without parameters also we can call it as. Okay. So you have to give here this out. This is the add method. I'm giving this is add method. Okay. Next one void add to I'm giving another method I'm giving with the static keyword. With the static. This is the instance method. This is the static method. Okay. So now let's see. Here you have to give this out. So this is add one method. This is add one method. Okay. Now let's see. So if it is a instance method, how to call it? How can we how to call the instance method? So we have to create the object. So what is the object? A dot. So if you give a dot, it will give whatever the methods are there, it will come automatically. So we have created, right? Add and method is available. Okay.